Life can be hard enough on its own. But what do you do when you have to fight even for the right to live on the land that's been in your family for generations? Today we'll see how the Kachin people of Northern Burma are handling the challenge in their war-torn country. Securing land rights for subsistence-level people is a challenge in many parts of the world. Myanmar's complicated and drawn-out transition from colonial backwater to modernizing post-military dictatorship has created a twisted landscape for locals to navigate. The former British colony has been in transition since winning independence after the Second World War. The Kachin people, 2/3 of whom observe Christianity, have had a harder road than most, with their leadership in and out of conflict with the national government since the early 1960s. Even though the national government still legally owns all land, the democratizing government began to grant land permits in 2012 to persons who could prove they had possessed the land for a period of time. They called the land use certificates Form 7. Though the process was meant to occur in a timely manner and cost only 500 kyats, or about 35 cents, localized corruption in petty or extreme amounts has prevented people in many communities from securing their land rights. Enter Burmese-based NGO Spectrum since 2011, aiding these disenfranchised groups. Spectrum was established in 2007 as a policy influence agency specializing in justice, natural resource, energy, gender, and transparency issues, as well as anti-corruption and all types of reform. In Kachin State, Spectrum has provided guidance, organization, and training, as well as some small cash to facilitate land registration in rural areas. Approximately 70% of Burmese people are dependent on rural agriculture. The macro politics of the civil war complicate the land registration process in Kachin. The regional conflict has permitted the national military to take land and even allow banana plantations to operate on seized land run by companies from nearby China. In areas like the village I visited, just 1% of land had been returned to villagers. They said this situation applied to more than 300 people, or as many as 70 to 80 households.
How many generations have your family had this home?
The land belongs to the ancestor.
A woman named Kum Nao said she had registered her land with relatively minor inconvenience. She recognized that the government workers were underpaid and called the extra money she paid the registration office a form of hospitality.
How long did the process take, and did you have to pay any bribes?
3 months. Not much money to pay for that, but some small food or something, and then putting some petrol into their motorbike.
And that was all right with you?
This is not right. This is not right. This is a kind of hospitality.
By Spectrum's analysis, the well-connected had much less trouble registering their property. As is often the case, it's the widows and immigrants without social power who get left behind. When Mr. Kyan Sar contacted the land administration staff to have his property surveyed, they refused to come.
They called the staff from the land administration to do this one for us.
Right.
But they say to come over there. But the other things, the Chinese company, they call them and then come to.
Oh, they'll come for the
they
Chinese
come for
people.
the Chinese people.
But I suppose the Chinese people, they have guns probably, right?
But they have money.
They have money.
But the community, they have no money. Gives it to the staff a lot of money.
The Chinese plantations pose a dual threat. Not only are they overtaking properties that locals have traditionally farmed on, affecting both livelihoods and nutrition, but they are sometimes damaging natural resources in the process. Villagers don't want the plantation. It's not just about profit, it's ruining their environment.
When the plantation is set up for the community, maybe water sources has gone.
They're using up natural resources for a commercial purpose when you really are more concerned about your livelihood and your family and feeding them.
And also they use fertilizer and not organic, just a chemical. The company from the Chinese, maybe they come to fight to the community by using swords or something like that. Yeah,
Chinese could fight violently here.
Yeah, violently.
That's pretty serious.
So that they are afraid. It's better to get this land for the coming generation, but if not, maybe this is worry for the next generation.
The Chinese companies took possession of the land after it was seized by the Burmese military. To the locals, the military has had a checkered history. One man named Kiao Kong had been shot at while farming in his forest property as an intimidation tactic.
The soldiers from the military, sometimes they come to shoot you to their field by using the gun. This is something that's scary.
Another man, Kanfa, had to buy his animals back after they wandered a bit too far.
Cows, buffalo, and etc. They come into the military compound and then they sit and they capture. And then they ask, who's buffalo? And then mine. So you have to give some compensation for the buffalo.
To buy your buffalo back.
You buy buffalo back.
The military and Chinese plantations had stayed away when there was a more active conflict in the area. A woman was killed by a landmine several years ago. It didn't make sense to invest in infrastructure that could be damaged by explosives or ordinances. The land registration policy allows locals to register use of farmland, but makes no provision for land classified as forest land, even if it's been farmed for generations. Villagers are trying to get their farmed forest land reclassified as farmland so they can continue to feed the future. They hope to have it absorbed into a recognized community forest zone. The villagers are organizing to file a class action lawsuit, though it's impossible to predict the outcome, as the process is being written in real time. Spectrum hopes the process is adapted so that spouses can be joint land title users, so they don't end up landless in the event of their husband's death. While the government should be applauded for proactively addressing the land use issue, reforms are still needed to create the intended stabilizing effect. Spectrum is still helping these folks to secure their futures and could use further help from international organizations specializing in indigenous land rights. If you're interested in helping, please contact Spectrum Director David Allen at this email address. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Brennan. Peace. And here's a message about a job opening with Your Blue Continent. Most of us don't hear enough uplifting stories about the people and organizations who work to save the planet and bring sustainable development to the far corners of the world. But they're out there, and I'm on a mission to meet them and tell their story. How would you like your job to be traveling around the world to meet the most interesting people on the planet and help them tell their success stories? Your Blue Continent is searching for a producer/camera person to accompany me on our next season of episodes. This time we're going to be even more ambitious, selecting a region of the world such as Latin America, West Africa, Central or East Asia, or the islands of the South Pacific, and shining a light on innovative projects in each country along the way, even the slightly dangerous ones. If you've ever wanted to see the real world and get paid to do it, this can be your opportunity. Successful candidates will have an adventurous spirit, good health, and the ability to travel ruggedly for months at a time. A good candidate will have demonstrated skills in media, camera work, writing, and international travel and planning. Strong language skills in Spanish, French, Russian, or Arabic will make you a huge asset to our effort. This job, though exciting and rewarding, is not for the faint of heart. If you think that you or someone you know fits this description, please email us a link to your video resume here. And maybe you'll be the one to help us put together the next series of Your Blue Continent.